Welcome to the Exploring New England podcast with Ryan Zipp, where each week I will be talking about what makes this historic region such an amazing place to enjoy. From the scenic views to road trip ideas to where to grab the best eats and much more. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Exploring New England podcast with me, Ryan Zipp. Last week, we took a little springtime trip to Boston, where I headed to walk around with my camera and take in all of the current blooms that were going on there. It was, and still is, a very good season for all the different cherry blossoms, magnolias, tulips, and other things. So that was an awesome trip. I got some great content there. I actually still have to go through and edit some photos from that. I've been a little behind, but and I also talked a little bit about a full moon shooting experience in the town next to my hometown in Branford, Connecticut. So I enjoyed kind of talking about those stories a bit. Spring is in full bloom right now here in New England. It's a lot of the daffodils are kind of past. A few are hanging on, but the tulips are going strong in many places. I actually checked out a different location of the wicked tulips that I hadn't been to before. I had previously been to the Preston, Connecticut location, and this week earlier I got to the Johnston, Rhode Island location, which was really awesome. Both locations were great as far as the tulips goes and the whole experience picking them, but the Johnston one, from a photographer standpoint, was better with a few different barns in the background and just overall compositions, I feel like. So that was a great experience. I came home with some nice tulips for myself. I also gifted some to my mom and stepmom as well, so we're all enjoying them. And spring is also in bloom in my own yard. Different things are popping up. I have a pair of bluebirds that are nesting in my yard in a birdhouse for the second season. Last year was the first time, so I've been keeping an eye on them, feeding them some mealworms, helping them out a little bit. They have, I think they're done laying eggs, so I think she's about to start incubating. So hopefully I get to see some cute little bluebird babies soon enough. So, and I had a pair of Baltimore Orioles show up in the last day. The male and female we're feeding tonight as well. So goldfinch are looking bright yellow. Just waiting for my first hummingbird here at the house, but it's all just more signs that spring is full on dead ahead. So just been enjoying that, and things are getting real busy at my store, the Fat Robin. It's a wild bird nature shop. For anyone that doesn't know what I'm doing, 5 days usually out of the week when I'm not exploring with my camera, the other free time I have. But we always ramp up this time of year, springtime, and gifts for Mother's Day. Definitely keeping me busy, but I'm trying to plan some trips for May and June now to get some stuff on the calendar and take advantage, because it's flying by. I was talking to a few people, and it's like now we're May, so it's like legit we're a third done of 2024 already, which I'm not quite sure how that happened. It's flying by. So one of the things that I kind of had in mind when I started the podcast was to talk about my trips and also recommend ideas to you guys of things to do. And what I wanted to do with today's episode is recommend a spot in particular, but an overall theme for this time of year, but where it's good to kind of book right now. So early May, first half of May, before things get even busier in a lot of these locations, and not only more busy with tourists, but also more expensive overall. And the spot I chose to focus on is one that I went to last May to kick off May. And that spot is the little island of Nantucket. And this is a spot that I had wanted to go to for a handful of years, but just timing never worked out for me to get there. So last year I was planning my early spring stuff, and the tentative plan was to get over there for like the second half of their annual Daffodil Festival, which is they held at the end of April every year. There's some flower shows. There's the big parade where everyone gets dressed up and decorates cool different vintage cars, and they have a whole parade and a show. And obviously, there's just thousands of daffodils blooming in a number of locations. But last year, the weather was looking cold and kind of rainy. So I decided to postpone for that, and I ended up going the next week, which was the first kind of weekend in May. I ended up, finding a spot to stay called Faraway Nantucket, and it's right downtown there on Center Street, not far from where you get in on the ferry. So I was able to get a room it was a Sunday and Monday night. So obviously, any time of year, Friday and Saturday is going to be a little more expensive, but if you can do a Sunday, Monday, anytime during the week, and even the Friday and Saturday obviously are cheaper this time of year than they are once you start getting into the warmer, more peak months. But I was able to snag a good deal there, and I look now at the upcoming weeks, and there's definitely good deals to be had at a number of places right downtown. So the plan was when I finished up work on Saturday, I got in the car and I headed to the Cape and ended up just picking up a basic room in Hyannis for the night so that I would be right near the ferry for the morning over to Nantucket. So I ended up, it wasn't a super early one. It was kind of late morning ferry. I definitely recommend doing high-speed ferry. Just it's not that much more expensive, and you just get there quicker, and just you have more time actually on the island. So for me, that's a no-brainer. Unless you're bringing a car, but it's hard to book one for there. It's super expensive, and honestly, you don't need it. So I ended up getting over there from the ferry. I think it was like a little before noon. It was right around there, around midday. And smooth ride over. And the thing that, you've probably seen, a lot of you have probably been there, but even if you haven't, the thing that you're greeted with is Brant Point Lighthouse right there. So it's kind of, obviously you start seeing land, but as we start making the turn into the harbor, you're greeted with the lighthouse there. And I believe it's the second oldest lighthouse in the country at this point, which is really cool. So, but that kind of greets you there. So not only does it help guide ships in and at night in inclement weather, but it also greets tourists and the residents there when they're returning back from the mainland. So that was my first view that I actually got of Nantucket, was kind of the coastline, the lighthouse, and then pulling in to the harbor there. So first thing I did, especially since not having a car on a trip like this, was go up to the hotel, check in, drop off my overnight bag, get kind of regroup, and then walk around a bit. I always like to, the first day, first afternoon, just kind of soak in the surrounding, especially when it's like a new place like this, which after, a handful of years now, adventuring around New England, there aren't too many spots that I haven't been to at least once. So when I finally get to a new place like this time, it's exciting just to go slow and not try to rush around and enjoy it. So, but was hungry, so I ended up making my way over to a spot called the Charlie Noble, and a lot of inside seating, but they had some tables out back. It was a nice day, so that was the other thing that worked out about postponing it a week. Was like it was like high 50s, 60 degree or something during the day, so it was really nice for that time of year, especially out there. Sometimes it could obviously be colder and windier, just being surrounded by water. So, and I ended up grabbing a lobster roll. Surprise, surprise. So they did up a little more than the classic take on it, but it was still good. Still enjoyed it. Didn't need the extra stuff, but overall good experience. I've been back to Nantucket now after this trip 2 times last year as well. Once at the end of June, once in December for the tail end of the holiday stroll they do. So ended up actually eating here another time and had good meals both times. So it's a good spot right downtown, to eat, whether it's lunch or dinner. Just right down there anyway, not far from, basically right when you start getting off the ferry there, there's just shops, restaurants, ice cream shop, place to grab coffee. So there's a lot to do right there without even, obviously because you don't have a car, but you pretty much walk everywhere. There's also, they have shuttle buses that you can take pretty much. I think there's runs all around the island, and they're cheap, like a few dollars a ride. So definitely, you check that out, and you can make use of that. So it's like you don't even really need a car, like I said. So I just basically was just wandering around. I took a walk over to the lighthouse that I saw when I entered Brant Point. It was kind of harsh early afternoon light, so I didn't really take many photos, but just kind of took it in and was actually looking at the app to see where sunrise was going to be the next 2 mornings when I was there, and it was going to kind of line up pretty much behind the lighthouse. So I figured I would try one or both mornings after that. Then it was a nice day, sunny, 60, and the spot that everyone had been mentioning to grab an ice cream was called the Juice Bar. So obviously they have smoothies and other things and ice cream. So had to grab an ice cream sundae there just to kind of see if the hype was real, and it was good. So wasn't like anything too crazy over the top, but it hit the spot, and it was good. No complaints here. And one of my buddies I've been friends with for a long time, Conrad, he grew up in the same town as me, Hamden in Connecticut. He, for a handful of years, been working out there, running different bars, and he happened to be there at the time I was there. And luckily, his 2 days off matched with the days off I was there, so he was like, "We definitely have to meet up for a bit. I'll show you around." So after my ice cream sundae, he came and scooped me, and we hung for a bit. Then ended up meeting up with some of his friends there, and went down to a beach spot. They were able to, get down, drive down in the sand, and basically just hung out for sunset. Had a few drinks, watched the sun go down. There was people, we had a fire going on the beach. A few other people did too. So it was a really cool end to my first day there, and also to kind of see it with people who are living there, working there, not just from like the tourist standpoint. So I really appreciated that, and it was good to see a familiar face. Most of these trips, I end up doing, if I do them solo, don't really know anybody there per se, so I just end up, doing things myself, and obviously conversing with people at restaurants and bars. But yeah, it kind of added another element to it. So then after that, we ended up heading back to town and needed a late dinner. We ended up over at a spot called Brotherhood of Thieves. It's like a old school kind of vibe bar restaurant. So went in there and ended up with another lobster roll surprise. So that one was pretty good as well. And yeah, it was a good end to the day there. So definitely fit in a lot, and you could do that in a place like this just because there's so many spots you can get to on foot. So crashed, and the hotel was good, comfortable bed, nice clean modern room. So that was Far Away again is the name of the hotel there, and right down amongst everything. So I'd recommend that. I also stayed on another trip when I was there end of June at the Jared Coffin House. So another like historic inn there, and that one was good as well. That I'd say a little more old school there. The Far Away one's a little more kind of hip and trendy and modern. So depending on what vibe you kind of want to go for, and you just have to see what's available and what kind of deals they're running. So I woke up early the next morning, but it was kind of a dud for sunrise. I think it was like perfectly clear, I want to say, but I remember it wasn't even worth shooting. So ended up walking around. I had heard about a spot, Handlebar Coffee. Everyone was telling me I had to get there to try coffee. So got a nice mocha, and it was really good. So that hit the spot. Thumbs up to that one. Better luck than I had finding a good iced mocha in Boston, as you guys found out last week. And then made it over a spot called Lemon Press, again right there, right on the main road when you get into town. Got a bacon, egg, and cheese from there, and that was really good. So that hit the spot to kind of get me going. Then I think I just kind of just wandered around again and just took a little time just sitting down in a few spots. And then a little later on, I would meet up with my buddy Conrad again. We drove out. He had his car, so he picked me up, and we stopped at a spot called Something Natural. It's like a bakery and lunch spot, a little bit away from downtown, so it's pretty far if you wanted to walk. I think you kind of need to get some kind of ride there. But they had great sandwiches. They have like their own drinks bottled up. I got their Turkey Terrific. I think it's like one of their kind of go-to iconic sandwiches. Their house roasted turkey, herb bread, stuffing, and homemade cranberry sauce. So that definitely hit the spot as well. So breakfast and lunch were good that day. And he was like, "Yeah, we got to head over and check out the Bluff Walk in Sconset." So there's like another little um, area over there on the island, um, nicknamed Sconset, and there's like obviously a lot of houses, but there's like a little market kind of parking spots there. And right down the road from there is where this Bluff Walk starts, and it's really cool because you're just kind of walking. There's like these little pathways in between these cool little houses and cottages, and I really didn't. I'd heard about it, but I'd obviously never been there, and was finding more about it. And because at some points you start walking and you're literally like in someone's backyard of like this multi-million-dollar home, and you're like in the backyard. Some of them they're actually paths, some there's like actually some division, but a lot of them it's just you're literally in the backyard. So it was kind of nuts. You don't really see that most places. As any coastal spots you're at, usually they're blocked off, they're private. You're not, a lot of spots you can't even get into. So I looked up a little bit just to see about it, and it goes back to the late 1800s actually. A guy named William Flagg, he was a resident and developer on Nantucket at the time, and he kind of foresaw in this area that it was going to become, more valuable, more exclusive over time. So he made sure to build into the deeds of these houses that there would be, a public right of way through them, no matter what, and that's still there to this day. So it's pretty awesome that you're able to do that. So tourists and locals alike kind of walk this path, and I feel like it's about a few miles out and back if you do it. I know the last like half mile or so now, unfortunately, due to erosion over the years, like a lot of areas there, is you can't walk on it. Parts of it they just deem it unsafe. So for the last stretch, you kind of have to. It takes you out back on a road, and that'll take you down to the lighthouse there. It's a cool lighthouse, white and red, kind of. And there was a few daffodils left there. I kept looking to see if there was any remnants of any that were alive to get some daffodil vibe shots. So every once in a while, I found a spot with a few that still kind of weren't out of commission yet. But yeah, it was a nice walk. Again, it was a great day, just like the day before. So it was really cool to check that out. There's lots of these spots with like little fences, and you're just like looking out to the ocean from there. Some private staircases down to the beach that you can't hit up, but overall for like a public walkway, I got to say it's really cool, and you have to admire how this guy had the foresight to do this, and he knew that he wanted people for generations to be able to enjoy it. So give it up to William Flagg for doing that. So we walked out and back there. It was cool. Checked out the lighthouse and got back to the car, and then he kind of just wanted to show me around to a few spots. And the other good thing this time of year, I think most things were open. Don't quote me on it, but it's late enough now into the season where most places are going to be open. So the next spot we checked out was Cisco Brewery, which I know is a hot spot there, and I've heard it gets wild during the summer months. They have live music and just a lot going on. So we stopped there just to have a drink, just to check it out. Definitely good vibes. I like the venue itself, and yeah, I would definitely go back again. I didn't make it back on my visit in late June just because I didn't have time, and also I knew it was kind of packed, so I wasn't in the mood to kind of wait in any lines. Brewery, that's another spot there if you're into that, or just kind of looking for another thing to do. I believe they actually run shuttles from downtown to the brewery. So it does. So you don't even need to worry about taking the shuttle to pay, even though it's only a few bucks. I believe they run back and forth, so you'd have to check on their website and what the schedule is. So, but it's cool that they do that. They obviously want people to get there, and they know that people, 99% of them that come there aren't going to have cars. So, so Cisco Brewery, another spot to check out. Then, I think kind of relaxed a little bit that afternoon. Walked around a little bit again. Try to find a good balance, between not running yourself ragged on some of these trips, because I do want to enjoy it, unless I have like a crazy amount of things on the list to check off. So, but I did end up meeting back up with Conrad for the end of the day because I wanted to check out Steps Beach. It's another one of those iconic spots there, and New Sunset would kind of be off to the left of it. Like really cool stairs down. But this was the same time last year when those crazy wildfires were going on up in Canada. So it was had this haze going on, this haze, and it was just blocking the sun. And it on one hand, it made you couldn't get kind of a traditional sunset in a way, but it gave it this crazy eerie look. So when stuff like this happens, you just have to roll with it. So I was firing away, trying to capture some different vibe stuff, and got a really cool keeper shot, I think, of down the steps there, and the sky just had this eerie kind of pinkish glow about it. So I was glad to come out with some keepers from there. On these super short trips, you kind of don't have many chances, so I was pumped to come home with some from there. And again, if you're watching this on the YouTube version, you'll see photos of things I'm talking about, whether it's food, hotels, locations, or like I was just talking about that sunset there. So appreciate everyone listening to me on all the audio platforms, but also if you ever can, definitely check it out on YouTube. Give me a subscribe there, and then you'll get to see all these cool things and this ginger bearded face as well. So so that was a great way to end my second and last night there. So definitely was you're able to fit a lot in a short period of time. So even if you could just do one night, it's great. You can take an early ferry over, get all the day in, stay over one night, and then take a later ferry back. The hotel there, like all of them, they'll hold on to your luggage. So after you check out, you could just leave the luggage there and then go grab it before the ferry back. And then by the time I got back, it was late again. I think it was like close to 9 by the time I was ready to eat. So I found a cool spot that my buddy Jay, who's a badass chef here in Connecticut, and he spent some time there. He told me to check out, and that's called the Proprietor's Bar and Table. It was like right around the corner from my hotel too, which made it a no-brainer. And a very cool spot, like a dark, moody vibe when you go in, which I like, especially when I'm doing these later dinners. So and I didn't feel like a full meal, so kind of went with a few like small plates they had going on. These like Parker House rolls, these other sweet potatoes they had prepared. It was really awesome. Tasty drink, and of course a little dessert treat to cap the night off. So definitely plenty of great food spots there. There's no shortage of that. So definitely do your research and see what you're in the mood for. But plenty of awesome spots. That's just happened to be the few places that I checked out. I'd say on this trip that was my favorite restaurant, favorite food spot, Proprietor's Bar and Table. So definitely give them a look at their menu and kind of what they have going on. That was the end for me. Walked around a bit at night. It was cool because they have the legit cobblestone streets there. So it's just awesome to walk around at night, especially in early May. There's like no one around. Very light on the tourist then. So I enjoyed it. Nothing was crazy. I didn't have to wait in lines anywhere. So another bonus besides the cheaper accommodations and such is that there's just a lot less people there. So then last morning there, I was like one last chance for sunrise. So got up like 4:45 early, walked over to Brant Point, the lighthouse, and then it actually cooperated for me. As it got closer, there was enough clouds to catch some of the colors. So spent like a half hour kind of running around some different compositions. And actually, it was like a boat coming in, and I was able to kind of line it up to add another element to the photo as well, which I always like to do, as much depth as you can get in it from front to back. It just keeps people's eyeballs on it longer and just makes for a more interesting photo. So a lot of times there's not much we could do, but when you see that boat come and you scramble to get in position like I did. So that was a quick visit, but for my first visit to Nantucket, it was awesome. Really couldn't ask for any better, for that trip. And then, like I said, I ended up making it back at the end of June for the rose blooms, which are amazing. Some of the hydrangeas were blooming, and it was like perfect timing. I was able to get them because then once July hits, it's just pandemonium. It was even starting to get nutty when I was there end of June, but July and August are just nuts. And besides a million people, you're going to be paying like $800 a night if you can get one for like a tiny room, not even on the water. So obviously, if you can get there during that, you have some connections or you have a place to stay or you can make it happen. It's definitely awesome. But in these earlier months, the early May was a good cheap option to get in there. Still good weather, and there was also cherry blossoms were still blooming as well. So got some shots of those, and just made for a great spring visit. So I kind of called it like it was like a nice little pregame to kind of wet the beak a bit to get ready for New England coastal summer. So yeah, and then I made it back in December, the tail end of their Christmas stroll, which I believe is I don't know if it's this year coming up, might be the 50th year of it, which is really cool that they've been doing it that long. That's what I love about New England, all these different traditions. So yeah, so I recommend a Nantucket off-season visit, and early May just worked out great for me. So if you're listening to this and you're looking for something to do in the next week or two, definitely make it happen. And if you can't get there to later May, it's still less than it would be as you get closer on to June. They're just gonna pay more, and there'll be some more people there with you. So, but if you can't get there this year, file it away as like a bucket list for like late April, early May next year. Yeah, so that's the little preview there on a early spring visit to Nantucket, and also just a few other spots to think about when it comes to options here is anywhere on the Cape, basically anywhere in Cape Cod, same thing. Newport, Rhode Island. I'd say like the southern coastal areas of Maine, like Ogunquit, Wells, Kennebunkport, even like Rockport, Gloucester. So those would be all to like check out for these early time frames to get in where I know lodging's cheaper and it's just not as busy. So beaches won't be as packed. Obviously, you might not be able to like lay out or go swimming, but you're not going to deal with nowhere to park, paying to park, and just a million people everywhere and paying double, triple, or more for hotels. So definitely recommend looking into these if you're looking for a May trip to go somewhere for even an overnight. That's what I would recommend. So again, thank you for tuning in. This is episode 7. I appreciate everyone coming along for the ride with me now, and we'll see where I decide to take us next week. So for now, keep listening, whatever format you're listening on, and if you do listen on YouTube or watch on YouTube, I should say, subscribe and give some thumbs up likes. So thanks again, and hope you guys have a great week. Get out there and enjoy, and we'll see you next week.